Hey, everybody, it's Alfred Parsard Jr. back with another Metropolitan Report. And before we begin this Metropolitan Report live, just want to thank everybody for their support all throughout. Uh, if you're watching this on our YouTube page, hit subscribe. Even if you're not watching on YouTube, go to the YouTube page, Metropolitan Report Podcast. Subscribe. We've got good content. We've been very consistent on the content. Bring you all the Mets news, whether it's Mets players in the World Baseball Classic, things going on in spring training. We're talking all about it right now. And again, thank you for the overwhelming support. The community is growing, and I always like interacting with you guys. So anything that you guys have to say, just sound off in the comments. I am taking your comments live on air, whether it's on Facebook, on Twitch, if you're watching this on YouTube. So wherever you are, if you could comment, I will read your comments on here. You can ask some questions, ask my opinions on stuff, maybe some stuff I didn't go over. Again, sound off in the comments, and I will answer here on this Wednesday night. I'm in New York City. Salute to you guys wherever you are. I will be browsing through the comments. But yeah, lots to unpack here. Of course, we'll start off with the hottest topic. The World Baseball Classic ended last night. It was a great tournament over a couple of weeks. I know I've been a critic of the timing of the World Baseball Classic, but we had a couple of Mets in the World Baseball Classic. Our last episode, we highlighted Clay Holmes, who had a wonderful outing in pool play against Great Britain. No need to go back over that. He only appeared in the one game. He threw 3 scoreless innings of shutout baseball in the World Baseball Classic to Clay Holmes. Clay Holmes, after that game, later leaving Team USA when they advanced to the knockout stage. He went back to Port St. Lucie, went back to Mets camp, but Nolan Mclean stayed behind. Ultimately, Venezuela, they won the World Baseball Classic. Shout out to Johan Santana, the former Met, who has the only no-hitter in Mets history thrown by one pitcher. Of course, the Mets have 2 no-hitters in history, the other happening in April of 2022, but it was a team effort. But Johan Santana, the pitching coach of Venezuela, now has a World Baseball Classic championship under his belt. So shout out to him and all the guys on Venezuela, Gleyber Torres, Michael Garcia, Ronald Acuna Jr., all those guys, Salvador Perez. They played a hard-fought tournament. And what a run Venezuela had. Venezuela first defeated the defending champions, the powerhouses, Japan. That was a feat in and of itself. Then they beat the Cinderella story of the tournament in Italy, who nobody expected to even make it out of pool play, let alone win the pool in Pool B. And then knocked off the United States in an upset. So shout out to Venezuela. And but let's talk about one guy on Team USA again, Nolan Mclean. Now, Nolan Mclean, he started last night against Venezuela. He gave up 2 out of the 3 runs that Venezuela scored. The game ended 3-2. Nolan Mclean responsible for 2 of those runs. But I got to say, you know what? For the small sample size that we saw in the majors for Nolan Mclean last season. Now, again, Nolan Mclean, he came up as a late season call-up for the Mets. He's still considered a prospect in the Mets organization, even though he's going to break camp with the big league club in Queens is Nolan Mclean. But as far as what I saw in the tournament itself from Mclean, I don't feel so confident in Nolan Mclean anymore. As Nolan Mclean, if you look at his major league stats from a season ago, he pitched in 8 games, went 5-1, 2.06 ERA, 57 strikeouts in 48 innings. That's great, but he was a rookie last season. I mean, he'll keep his rookie designation this season, but I'm Nolan Mclean on the big stage. Him playing in this tournament proved that he was not ready for a national stage, a global stage, if you will. Now, I loved Nolan Mclean last season. I do think that the Mets should keep him in the rotation opening day. But again, on the grand stage in front of the entire world, yeah, I'm not sold on Nolan Mclean. Nolan Mclean, now notice, the United States only lost 2 games in the World Baseball Classic, and Nolan Mclean started both of the games that the United States lost. Now, say what you will, he only gave up 2 runs. Pitchers are going to give up runs. In that game to Venezuela, it was a low-scoring game, 3-2 final score. But against Italy, now you look at the Italian roster, and they should have never been able to tag up Nolan Mclean. I'm sorry. You look up that Italian roster for Team Italy, and half of the team offensively are minor leaguers. Mets top prospect Nick Morabito was on that roster, for crying out loud. And I'm going to pull up the Team Italy roster here, just so we can see what Nolan Mclean was up against on paper. So let's take a look. We look at the lineups with the players he faced. Sam Antonacci, no major league experience. John Birdie, major league veteran. Zach DeCenzo has played in the majors. He's a member of the Houston Astros. Andrew Fisher, no major league experience. He's in the Brewers organization. A lot of these guys, Joe La Sorsa, Joe Jocks, like, well, those are pitchers, sorry, but Vinny Pasquantino, the captain, longtime Kansas City Royal, Brian Rocchio, Cleveland Guardian, Thomas Sagasi, St. Louis Cardinal, Jack Caglione, Kansas City Royal, Dom Canzone, Seattle Mariner, Jacob Marcy is a Marlin, Nick Morabito, no major league experience. He was in camp with McLean. But yeah, a lot of these guys, Dante Nori, no, he's in the Phillies organization, no major league experience. So Mickey Gasper had a cup of coffee with the Red Sox a season ago, not much major league experience. And these are the guys that hammered Nolan Mclean. So take that for what you will. Let's go to the graphic. Shout out to our graphic department. That guy does a great job. Here's Nolan Mclean in the World Baseball Classic, folks. The number, and I'm a numbers guy. We got to go by the numbers here. Nolan Mclean in the World Baseball Classic, 2 starts. He started 2 games. Record was 0-1. Again, both of the games that Team United States lost, Nolan Mclean started. He had an ERA of 5.87, which is in stark contrast to his major league ERA of his major league ERA. Again, we noted it earlier. He had a 2. Where was it? McLean had a 2.06 ERA. Again, only pitched in 8 games last season, 5-1 last season. But in the WBC, 5.87 ERA. He only pitched a combined 7 2/3 innings, gave up 5 runs, struck out 3, and walked 8. Now, look at that strikeouts to walk ratio for a second. Now, McLean again, 7 2/3 innings pitched, 5 earned runs given up, only struck out 3 and walked 8. So he has more walks than innings pitched. And in 7 2/3, so that's 1 out away from 8 innings, he gave up 5 runs. So Nolan Mclean, not a good showing in the World Baseball Classic whatsoever. Again, the numbers are a bit skewed because prior to last night's start in the championship game, he had an ERA over 9 from when he faced Italy. So he brought it down to 5.87, but still a starting pitcher with an ERA close to 6. Not very good at all. Nolan Mclean looked overmatched in the WBC, I'm not going to lie. And again, when you got to face guys like Nick Morabito and Sam Antonacci, and guys who are fringe major leaguers, journeyman veterans like the Jacob Marcys and the John Birdies, it's very alarming. So again, Nolan Mclean, I don't think he was ready for the big stage. Dare I say, he let his country down. He let the United States down, and I'm not afraid to take that stance. And again, I love Nolan Mclean, but also you got to remember, folks, he was dealing with vertigo less than a week prior to the WBC starting. I noted it in our last Metropolitan Report here. And honestly, if I was Mclean, once I started feeling ill, I would have skipped the WBC. Nolan Mclean is young, folks. He's got plenty of career ahead of him. Nolan Mclean he's young. He's got plenty of career ahead of him. Yeah, he could be in the next WBC. WBCs every 3 years. The kid is 25 years old this season. He'll be 25 in July. And there'll be many more WBCs. If he wasn't feeling well, he could have sat this one out or took a bullpen role. I mean, you look at the other starters that pitched for the United States team this season, or this tournament, I should say. The Tarek Skubals, the Paul Skeens. They looked in midseason form, and Mclean, for a guy who has high expectations for this Mets ball club so far this season, it didn't look good. And now I know what everybody's going to say. Well, the WBC happens while teams are in spring training. The guy hasn't thrown competitive pitches in competitive game situations since mid-September. And that's part of my problem with the timing of the WBC. But again, this is, if you're going to compete in a tournament of this scale, because the whole world is watching, all these different countries, you got to come to perform. Tarek Skubal had the same layoff as Mclean did, and Tarek Skubal pitched in the postseason. He has extra innings on that arm. Paul Skeens, same layoff as Mclean. Pirates didn't make the playoffs. And they came out guns blazing, and Mclean, 5.87 ERA, 8 walks in 7 2/3 innings. He was a strikeout phenom in the majors last season, only mustered 3 Ks in this tournament. So I'm very disappointed in Nolan Mclean's performance. I'm not going to bash him and say that he's a bad pitcher, but I don't know if the vertigo that he suffered from was an issue or a lingering issue, but Nolan Mclean did not look good whatsoever in this World Baseball Classic. And it just could be because he's young, wasn't ready for the big stage. Like, there are certain guys that just show up in these type of environments. Aaron Judge had a phenomenal tournament. If the U.S. would have won last night, I wholeheartedly believe Aaron Judge would have been the tournament MVP. There's no doubt about that. No question about that. Bryce Harper, huge home run last night with the United States down 2-0 to Venezuela. And Harper with a man on base hit one right to the batter's eye in Miami. Some guys just are meant for this big stage. You had guys like PCA, Pete Crow Armstrong, the former Met prospect at once upon a time. Big home run against Italy. So again, you got guys, some of them just show up on this stage. And then you got guys like Nolan Mclean, like Cal Raleigh. Cal Raleigh went the whole tournament. This guy's the big dumper, the major league leader in home runs last season, and didn't get a single hit in the entire tournament. So some guys are just built for this, and some guys are just regular season guys. Now, again, Mclean is young. He hasn't had a full major league season under his belt. I commend him for wanting to go out there and pitch for his country. But at the same time, you're not ready, you're not ready. I'm not going to lie and sugarcoat it. He had a poor performance in the WBC. We'll put up the graphic again for those of you who are just tuning in on YouTube and Facebook and Twitch. But that's Nolan Mclean in the WBC. Those are not good numbers. And if if the Nolan Mclean that we saw in the tournament is the same Nolan Mclean that we're going to get throughout the course of the season, then This Mets rotation is not going to be as good as I think it is. But again, McLean ERA just shortly south of 6. He got shelled. He was not ready for the big stage. Dare I say he let America down. Well, the offense last night let America down too. But again, Team USA lost 2 games in the World Baseball Classic. Both games that they lost were started by Nolan Mclean. McLean, again, just to reiterate one last time, his tournament numbers 0-1, 5.87 ERA, 7 2/3 innings pitched, 5 earned runs given up, 3 strikeouts, 8 walks. And compared to everyone else who started games in the WBC for Team USA, I was left very, very underwhelmed with how Nolan Mclean performed. And, again, Tarek Skubal, granted, only pitched 1 game and went back to Detroit Tigers camp. Paul Skeens was pretty much lights out in the tournament. So, it's, I don't know. I just expected more out of Nolan Mclean. And maybe I'm wrong for expecting more out of Nolan Mclean. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. But yeah, maybe I'm wrong. Logan Webb also 1.04 ERA. Paul Skeens 1.08. Tarek Skubal had an ERA of 3 in the 1 start that he had, and then McLean with the 5.87. Out of that 4-man rotation, McLean was the one guy that struggled. And every team is gonna have that one guy that struggles. But again, Major League Baseball season starts next week. Nolan Mclean has an advantage over everybody else who didn't play in the WBC. He has been in competitive environments in games that count already, while everybody else is just in exhibition games down in the Grapefruit League and in the Cactus League. And what we saw out of McLean, now granted, some people will make the argument, well, all major league rosters are not going to look like this in the WBC. It's the best the country has to offer, which is true. Venezuela put the best available talent that they could get from their country or their countrymen in that lineup. He's not going to face a lineup with Salvador Perez and Michael Garcia and Ronald Acuna Jr. and Gleyber Torres every game he pitches. Not at the major leagues, not at all. But again, we're not talking about Logan Webb this way. We're not talking about Paul Skeens this way. Nolan Mclean, until I see, if he can go a full season this season, replicating his numbers from last season, now mind you, he only pitched 48 innings last season. But if he can go and give us a 2 ERA or lower this season like he did last season, then I will stand on the soapbox here, and I will tell you that I am wrong right now on Wednesday, March the 18th, 2026, that I was wrong to judge Nolan Mclean off his World Baseball Classic performance. But as of right now, I'm not sold on Nolan Mclean at all. At least not in these big game situations, because again, every game in the World Baseball Classic was nationally televised. All eyes were on the Classic. I don't think anybody was, other than myself, because, I'm a diehard. I have this program that I got to do every week. So other than myself, nobody else was paying attention to anything going on in any of these exhibition spring training games. All the eyes in the baseball world were on the World Baseball Classic. All eyes, not just in New York, not just in the United States, but worldwide, were on Nolan Mclean twice, mind you, 2 times. And he fell short. So, yeah, I don't think Nolan Mclean is ready for the big stage. Imagine, because the World Baseball Classic, every game is feels like a game 7 in a playoff series, especially in the knockout round, because you loser goes home. Can't have an ERA close to 6. 5.87, we can't do that. You can't walk more batters than you strike out. You can't have more walks than innings pitched. You just can't. And again, I know I might be being too hard on the kid, but hey, last season the kid went 5-1, 2.06 ERA, and was a flamethrower. So what happened? So yeah, but before I move on here, Nolan Mclean. I'm not gonna give up on this kid and write him off, but at the same time, my opinion on him has slightly lowered, only because on the grandest stage of them all, second grandest stage in baseball, because I'll put the World Series slightly above the World Baseball. I think winning a World Series means a little bit more than winning a World Baseball Classic, because again, unless you're the Dodgers, nobody's going to have a mammoth roster of the greatest potential in Major League Baseball like they do in the World Baseball Classic, because even Team USA on paper, that offense was supposed to be prolific. You don't get that in a regular everyday Major League Baseball, because then the owners wouldn't have enough money to pay the whole roster unless you're deferring money like crazy like the Dodgers. But that's a different conversation for a different day. But again, Nolan Mclean not ready for the big stage. If this was the NLCS, the World Series, and we make it that far, and I had to throw Nolan Mclean out there, I'd be pretty nervous, because he's already proved on the big stage that maybe he has the jitters. I don't know. Got the yips, but Nolan Mclean was not ready for the big stage in this tournament, and dare I say, he, along with the offense in both the Italy and the Venezuela games, they let the United States down, and that game should have been won last night. Granted, he didn't. It was Garrett Whitlock who gave up the go-ahead run after Bryce Harper tied it in the eighth inning. I mean, in the seventh inning. Sorry, but yeah, I'm Nolan Mclean, and I don't like to bash this kid, because again, he's a kid, not even a full major league season under his belt. Maybe that should have been all the more reason he shouldn't have been on the team. That plus he was suffering from vertigo right before the tournament. But Nolan Mclean, I got to see a lot out of you this season. You got to replicate last season for your standing in my mind to go back up. But yeah, Nolan Mclean, I hate to use this phrase on him, but he was a human pinata, at least for Team Italy in the tournament. But yeah, he's not ready for the big stage at all. Hopefully, he could do some damage opening series weekend against the Pirates next weekend. But hey, like I said, the kid's got plenty of career in front of him, but I don't think he's ready for the tall task of the grandest stage of them all. After what he produced in the tournament. Speaking of World Baseball Classic news involving Mets, how did Team USA get to the championship game against Venezuela? They defeated the Dominican Republic, final score 2-1 in the semifinal round. That game ended on a called strike three that many people say was a ball. Now, of course, there's no ABS, automatic ball strike system, in the World Baseball Classic. Reason being is because all the leagues. So it's not just Major League Baseball and American minor league baseball that are being played in the World Baseball Classic. You have the NPB in Japan. You have the KBO in Korea. All these other leagues that don't use the ABS system. So they couldn't implement it because not everybody would know how to use it. The ABL in the Czech Republic. So Australian baseball, just a whole bunch of other different leagues that don't use the ABS system. And now, granted, I agree with Team Dominican Republic. If you go back and watch the footage, I don't have it here because we'll get copyright stricken, so I can't play it here for you. But the Dominican Republic team was very upset and outspoken that their tournament ended the way it did, a called strike three in a ball that was clearly not in the zone. But to the umpire's credit, he had a consistent strike zone the entire game. If you could go back and pull up the highlights of that game, you'll see that that umpire at home consistently had the same strike zone. Every ball that was thrown in that area where the call strike 3 was called a strike all night. So you can't fault the umpire. And furthermore, you cannot leave these games of this importance to the umpires. And you know what? You can't even blame the umpire because there were several times that the Dominican Republic team had a chance to beat Team USA, or at least tie the game up. Had bases loaded twice, runners on the corners, base running mistakes. Austin Wells stopped at third instead of going home. Fernando Tatis could have rounded second and went to third and put runners on the corners. He stopped at second. So, again, base running mistakes, and then, you know, when the game-ending strikeout happened, Dominican Republic had a runner in scoring position on second base. Juan Soto. Now, I love Pacheco. Out of any Met on this roster, now that Pete Alonso is gone, Pacheco is my favorite Met on the team. But Juan Soto had a memorable quote after the game. Juan Soto, and this is very uncharacteristic because Juan Soto is not the type of guy to talk trash. I mean, yes, there's the Soto shuffle, which some pitchers be like, "Oh, who is this guy? Like, what is he doing?" But Juan Soto made one of the most ridiculous claims in the entire history of post-game comments. So Juan Soto had a classic too. Juan Soto against the Netherlands in pool play, called game, hit a home run that mercied the Netherlands. And yes, in the World Baseball Classic, if you're up by 10 runs or more, 7 innings or later, they'll call the game. But Juan Soto told Jeff Passan of ESPN, and I quote, "We showed the world who's the best team in baseball. That's all I got to say." Now, Pacheco, love Juan Soto. Again, my favorite Met on the roster right now. But come on, bro. What are we doing here? You showed the world who's the best team in baseball. The best teams in baseball don't leave all those runners in scoring position. Like, it's crazy. At least 9 runners were stranded in scoring position. And that's through 3 innings. Again, they had the bases loaded twice, so that's 6. Runners on the corners once, so that's 8. And in the bottom of the 9th, the man on second. So you're stranded 9 runners. 9 runners. And you're the best team in baseball, and you only mustered up 1 run in that game. Now, granted, prior to that game, the Dominican Republic, they set a record for the amount of home runs hit in the tournament. They hit 14 home runs in this year's World Baseball Classic. No team has ever hit 14 home runs in a World Baseball Classic in one tournament. But again, like, when it came to a powerhouse, they just couldn't perform. And the USA, say what you want, but the USA were one of the better teams in their pool. Look at the pool that the Dominican Republic was in. They played with, Venezuela, the eventual champions, came out of Pool D, but they played with Israel, Nicaragua, and the Netherlands. They mercied the Netherlands. Nicaragua stunk. Why Dusty Baker ever came out of managerial retirement to go manage the Nicaragua team, I will never know. He's not even from Nicaragua. And then Israel, who has nobody. So, there were 3 terrible teams in your pool, and you beat up on all 3 of them. That's why you set the record for home runs, if we're being real, Pacheco. Granted, that team is star-studded. Juan Soto, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Fernando Tatis Jr., Luis Severino had a very good classic. Ketel Marte this is a who's who of Dominican talent. I'm not disputing the talent on that team, especially on paper. They had 14 home runs. I'll give it to you. 14 home runs in a tournament. My hat's off to you. I tip my hat. But to say that you're the best team in the entire tournament, I disagree. Because again, look how many of those runners in a game where you faced a team, Juan Soto, that was of equal power to you. You guys didn't get the job done. All those runners they left on base. So Juan Soto, that's a ridiculous claim. And like I said, I love Juan Soto, and this is out of character for Juan Soto. Juan Soto never usually makes these type of outlandish statements. But for Juan Soto to say that they showed the world who the best team is, that is preposterous. Once you got out of pool play, that was it. Again, you beat up on Israel, Nicaragua, and the Netherlands. 3 teams who are not good. You were in the same pool as the eventual champion, so I give you that. But Nicaragua, the Netherlands, Nicaragua stinks. The Netherlands, they stink. The best player on the Netherlands is Didi Gregorius. He hasn't played in the major leagues in years. And Xander Bogaerts is aging. Ozzy Albies is okay. And Israel. Like, does anybody know who's on Israel? But yeah, so Juan Soto, I love you, man. But Pacheco, you're a little outlandish on that one. That's a foolish comment. Because if your team was really that good in clutch time, you would have drove those runners in. DR lost 2-1. Only run scored was a solo homer. You caught Paul Skeens lacking one time. Let's go to the comments. My good friend Bobby Munoz. DR left too many men on base throughout the game. Yes, that's the point I just made. But Juan Soto wants to say that Dominican Republic was the best team in the tournament. Apparently the best team in the tournament. I don't know how you're the best team and you didn't get to the finals. Bobby Munoz says, Nolan Mclean, 4 2/3, 2 runs, 4 Ks, 1 walk. I saw him pitch in Atlanta late last season where his last pitch was 98 miles per hour. What pitcher were you watching? Again, Bobby, I'm basing my earlier assessment of Mclean, I'm basing that off of the World Baseball Classic. I went over his regular season numbers last season. I'm not knocking him for what he did last season. He was phenomenal last season. Dare I say, the best starting pitcher the Mets had last season. But again, this criticism is strictly based on the World Baseball Classic. And again, he had a poor showing in this tournament. If you think that a 5.87 ERA in 7 2/3 innings is acceptable, then I mean, we'll just have to agree to disagree. But Nolan Mclean did not have a good WBC. He did not have a good WBC. And I think if anybody would ask Nolan Mclean if he had a good WBC, he would tell you that he didn't. I know Bryce Harper gave him some praise, but remember, the kid is young. He shouldn't. He was just outmatched. He hadn't pitched on that big of a stage. So again, I just think that he wasn't ready for the grand stage. My good friend Drew Learned. What's up, Alfred? Sorry I joined late. What are we talking about? We're talking about Nolan Mclean's performance in the World Baseball Classic, Drew. I personally think that he had a poor showing in the Classic. Again, and my good friend Clint Alexander says Nolan Mclean is regs. In the tournament, he was regs. I will admit. Again, you look at the other starters on that Team USA. Paul Skeens had a 1.08 ERA. Logan Webb of the San Francisco Giants, 1.08 ERA. Scooble had a 3 ERA. But we talking about 5.87? Bobby says regular season he'll win 15 to 17 games. In the way today's baseball goes, I mean, it's possible he could win 15. Very rare you ever see a guy get up to 20, but I think he could win between 12 and 15 games if possible. Again, remember, you got to keep in perspective that McLean, this is going to be his first full major league season coming up. We only got a small sample size of him last season, 48 innings last season. So Bobby says his upside is huge. It is, because he's young. He's only 24 years of age. He'll be 25 once July rolls around. But again, I like McLean. I love McLean. Out of the 3 kids that came up last season, I loved McLean the most. Sproat was second. I regret that we traded Sproat and kept Tong, but that's another subject. But yeah, I just didn't like what I saw out of McLean on the World Baseball Classic. Again, I'm not going to judge him on the season based on the Classic, but I am concerned because what happens in a prime time game? What happens in a game where the season is on the line? Or what happens if you get to the NLDS or possibly the World Series? Again, this was the WBC was a worldwide stage. And unlike his colleagues and his peers, the Skeens, the Logan Webbs, the Scoobles, he just didn't show up. Bobby says, I think he'll adjust, and I can see them maybe limiting his workload after the All-Star break. You never know. James McGrady, my good friend, says that kid was throwing fire. But yeah, I mean, I'll put the graphic back up just for those who joined late. Nolan Mclean's final numbers in the WBC. Again, 0-1 record in 2 starts, 5.87 ERA. He pitched 7 2/3, 5 earned runs in the 7 2/3, and then that walk to strikeouts ratio was very concerning. 8 walks to 3 strikeouts in 7 2/3 innings. And James McGrady says definitely too much pressure, and I have to agree. I just don't think Jumbo that he was ready for the world stage. That's all it is. I don't think he was ready for that amount of pressure. Again, you got to remember that these guys are playing for their country. You're playing for the country. And when you're playing for your country, it's a different type of pressure than playing for your ball club. So Drew here is saying, if we are concerned about McLean having a rough WBC, then we should be concerned about Benaya. He had a terrible first start, then had 4 perfect innings with his highest velo in the 80s. Something is up. I mean, yeah, but again, you can't compare. I can't hold spring training in the WBC to equal weight. You missed it earlier, Drew, but I said when you have the WBC, you have each country is going to play the best countrymen that country has to offer. Now, granted, you're outside of the Dodgers, your average everyday major league batting lineup is not going to be so star-studded because, again, look what he had to go up against: Michael Garcia, Ronald Acuna Jr., Salvi Perez, amongst others, Gleyber Torres, who had a decent tournament himself. But then on the other hand, you look at a team like Team Italy, where half of the lineup had no major league experience, and they tore him up. So again, I just think it was the stage he was on. James says, also our bats froze. Yeah, the offense was flat last night until Bryce Harper had something to say about it. And then Bobby says he had 4 Ks in that game, last game, by the way. I got to double check that. But yeah, McLean, matter of fact, let's see if I stand corrected. I'm going to pull that up. Nolan Mclean, WBC stats. Yeah, so against Italy, he allowed 3 earned runs in 3 innings. So let's check this out for Nolan Mclean. So Nolan. Oh no, I got that incorrect. I'm sorry. So I stand corrected. He had 8 strikeouts to 3 walks. So I stand corrected. 8 strikeouts to 3 walks, but still is what it is. James McGrady, the new MLB The Show, got me tapping my head with the ABS. Hopefully in the next World Baseball Classic, they can integrate some automatic ball strike system, which I was in Port St. Lucie a couple of weeks ago. I got to see the ABS live, and it's actually a pretty fair system. So I would like to see it in the next World Baseball Classic. But moving on, we're going to go to Port. Speaking of Port St. Lucie, we're going to talk some Mets training camp. Big battle, big position battle in camp in Port St. Lucie. The Mets made a series of cuts this a couple of days ago. All of the big prospects: AJ Ewing, Ryan Clifford, Ryan Lambert, Carl Edwards Jr., all sent down. And the shocking one, because he was signed to a major league deal, MJ Melendez, who was in contention for the right field spot, he's been sent to minor league camp. He will be starting the season in Syracuse. So that leaves 2 men for the right field spot. Now, Carlos Mendoza, the Mets manager, he did come out and say that Tyrone Taylor is a lock to make the team, but Tyrone Taylor will be the backup. So Tyrone Taylor is on the team regardless of what happens, but he will not be the everyday right fielder. He could spend some time in center field because they don't think that Luis Robert Jr., who made his spring debut not that long ago, we'll touch on more on that later, but Luis Robert is not going to be an everyday guy. He's been banged up. They're going to work him back slowly. But the plan is to not let Luis Robert play every day until he's up to speed. So Tyrone Taylor will be platooning in center. So that just leaves Carson Benj, the Mets' top offensive position player prospect, up against Mike Tauchman, the veteran, who's a former Chicago White Sox, New York Yankee, and San Francisco Giant. Here is the tale of the tape. And we put up the graphic here. Mike Tauchman hitting .280 with 1 home run, 6 RBIs, and a .939 OPS so far this spring. Of course, we only have a couple of days of spring training and Grapefruit League action left. And then on the right, you see Carson Benj, who is absolutely tearing it up in the Grapefruit League, batting .406, no homers, but 5 RBI, .972 OPS. So he has Tauchman beat in both batting average and OPS. Tauchman 1 more RBI and 1 homer more than Carson Benj. I got a chance to see both of these guys in Mets action in Port St. Lucie when I was there a couple of weeks ago. And I gotta say, Carson Benj, I'll start with the young man first. Of course, Carson Benj tore up the minors last season. He reached every level of the minors. He was in Brooklyn. He was in Binghamton. He was in Syracuse. The only thing about Carson is that when he got to Syracuse, that's where he stalled out. He only has 24 games under his belt for Syracuse. And he didn't do well in Syracuse. He hit under 200 in Syracuse last season. Only 24 games of AAA experience. And then you have Mike Tauchman, who hit over 250 last season for the Chicago White Sox. Tauchman's been having a great spring. He's a non-roster invitee, so he's looking to make the club. Again, Mike Tauchman, he has quite a few extra base hits so far this spring in the Grapefruit League. Interesting to note, of course, if the Mets don't start the season with Carson Benj, he'll be in Syracuse because he obviously minor league options. Tauchman is a veteran, no minor league option there. It's either he makes the team or he doesn't. Tauchman, for what it's worth, has looked impressive for a veteran who's trying to continue his career. If I'm Carlos Mendoza and I'm David Stearns, this is what I would do. Again, Carson Benj, small sample size in AAA. Of course, everybody knows the minor league system. Low A, high A, double A, triple A, MLB. Um, Carson Benj. Carson Benj. I like Carson a lot. The best thing about him is he has a cannon for an arm. If you look back at our spring training vlog that we posted, the second game that we went to in Grapefruit League action, when the Mets played the Houston Astros back on March 1st, Carson Benj caught a fly ball. Houston had a runner on third, and he threw the ball in at the catcher, and the man on third had to turn back to third because he wasn't going to get there in time. Benj would have gunned him out. So Carson Benj has high upside. Of course, this kid is young. Carson Benj, only 23 years old. He's going to be a stud, but I would like to see him get some more seasoning before he gets brought up to play Major League Baseball. Of course, with spring training, again, the competition is uneven because you have a lot of minor leaguers in camp. You have a lot of non-roster guys trying to make it. So it's not like the opposing teams in Florida this time of year are putting their best players on the field. They're not fielding the best possible teams to win. Everybody's trying to see what they have in camp so that they can evaluate. Tauchman, on the other hand, again, it's either he makes the team or he doesn't. Tauchman, if he does make the team, he gets a major league salary. I'd be very surprised if he got more than the veterans minimum. So he could produce, and it wouldn't even cost the Mets that much to keep him around. So if Tauchman made the team, I would not be opposed. If Tauchman struggles early on, you could always cut him. I would imagine maybe at most he might get a $1 or $2 million contract. If he struggles, you can let him go. And if you have to pay him out, it's not going to be a significant write-off for David Stearns in the front office to make. Then you could bring Benj up if he starts the season in Syracuse tearing it up. But or they could carry both, because what happens is Francisco Lindor starting the season in Flushing, if he's good to go with the hamate bone, then there's no need to carry two extra shortstops, meaning Ronnie Mauricio will probably stick around as the backup, and Vidal Brujan will either go to Syracuse or be put on waivers. So Lindor also factors into this in a roster spot freeing up, because if Lindor starts the season on the injured list, then Brujan and Mauricio probably both make the team. If Lindor is ready to start the season in Flushing, then Brujan is probably packing his bags and going somewhere. I don't even want him in Syracuse, but we'll get to that a little later. But so a lot of variables that could have either Tauchman, Benj, or both Tauchman and Benj. So let's get to the comments here. Bobby Munoz says, I hope Kimbrel makes the team. He can still get it done. We're going to talk about Craig Kimbrel real soon. Drew learned. I've been to a lot of minor league games. ABS has been around a while. When I saw Alvarez in AAA, he looked very comfortable using it. That is true. ABS has been around the last couple of seasons in the minors and in spring training last season as well. Bobby Munoz says, Carson Benj actually had a homer. Yes, Carson Benj had one homer in spring training, but it doesn't count on the official record because it came against Team Israel when they had their exhibition. Even in exhibition, there are scrimmages. All of the WBC team exhibitions in spring training, unfortunately, do not count for the in-game record. So if you look on his Major League Baseball page, that game is not there. It's like a phantom game because the game doesn't really count because it's considered more of a scrimmage than an actual game. So, yeah, that home run against Israel, it doesn't officially count. But, yes, he did hit the homer. James McGrady says, wonder why they call it Grapefruit League. Never knew the meaning behind it. Oh, that's easy, James. They call it the Grapefruit League because the official fruit of Florida is grapefruits. So, yeah, they call it grapefruit. And then for the teams on the West Coast and in the Midwest, so like you got the Dodgers, the Angels, the Chicago White Sox, the Diamondbacks. They play their spring training in Arizona. They call that the Cactus League because the cactus is the official plant of Arizona. So, yep. So grapefruit is the official fruit of Florida. So that's why they call those games Grapefruit League games. But yeah, so Drew learned also, I need to go to bed. I'll watch this on replay tomorrow. Thank you, bro. Love the shows. Peace. Drew, always appreciate you, my friend. Well, when you do watch the replay, if anything is beyond what we talked about, just leave it in the comments. And I'm always happy to interact with you, my friend. Have a good night. But yes, so I'm gonna take Carson Benj and Mike Talkman if I can, because if Lindor is healthy, you can scratch Vidal Brujan. So that's just my opinion. But if I had to pick between the two, I would have Talkman be the everyday right fielder for now. Again, the Mets. Tyrone Taylor is probably going to platoon center with Luis Robert Jr. until he gets fully up to speed. So he's a lock to make the team. MJ Melendez was sent down to minor league camp earlier in the week. So a guy with a major league contract didn't do enough to keep his major league spot. So that leaves Benj and Talkman. But again, we have footage of both of them in each of our minor league, in each of our spring training vlogs. So you guys can go check that out. It is on the YouTube channel. For those of you watching on Facebook and Twitch, head over to the Metropolitan Report podcast on YouTube, and you can see my spring training experience down in Port St. Lucie at Clover Park. We got plenty of footage of both Talkman and Benj in action. But if it's up to me, logically speaking, because you can shuttle him up and down, I would put Benj in Syracuse, especially considering that Benj struggled in AAA last season. Let him get a little bit more seasoning before you bring him up. Because it's one thing to crush competition against minor leaguers, non-roster invitees, and the Where's Waldos of baseball as compared to everyday major league talent when the opposing team is putting together the best team available to try to beat you. Talkman, he's been to the song and dance so many times. Just let him start. G Money Stacks, hello, sir. He says, the one thing in common between Luis Robert Jr. and Mike Talkman is that they're not playing 162 games. Hey, I got to agree with you there, bro. Nobody expects Luis Robert Jr. to play a full 162. That guy's they're going to bring him back slowly. And then Talkman, he'll probably platoon with Benj if they both start the season both together in Flushing. But I do think because he's playing so well, you got to give Talkman a chance on the major league club. I think he's a guy that can contribute early in the season. Speaking of guys trying to make the team, somebody who Bobby brought up earlier in the comments, Craig Kimbrell, trying to make the team. The question is, will he make the team? Craig Kimbrell was somebody that was brought to camp on a non-roster invite status. I was very excited that Craig Kimbrell was brought to Mets camp this season, but I thought he would have been a lock. There's one bullpen spot left on this Mets club for the taking, and Craig Kimbrell, he's pitched 17 seasons, looking to make this one his 18th season. His fastball is topping out at 92 miles per hour. Kimbrell used to be able to throw 100 back when he was a Boston Red Sox, when he was an Atlanta Brave. But that feels like so long ago. According to Kimbrell, he says his body feels good. He feels like, and he's gone on to say, I quote, I wish I could show a little bit more out there velocity-wise. I'm throwing most of my pitches like I want to, but not all of them. Now, as we know, Father Time is undefeated here. Unless you're LeBron James in the NBA, 18 seasons in the bigs, that's a proud career. World Series champion, Rookie of the Year, 4-time saves leader. I think Craig Kimbrell is a Hall of Famer, if you ask me. 7-time reliever of the year. And Kimbrell's 37 years old. He'll be 38 as this season goes on. And and again, Go back to the vlogs that we put up on our YouTube channel. In the first vlog from February 28th, we saw Craig Kimbrell in spring training action, and he struggled in that inning. He's been very inconsistent. If you look at the Mets' current bullpen, there's only one open spot. The bullpen is as follows. The closer is Devin Williams. The setup men are Luke Weaver and Brooks Raley. And then you have Luis Garcia, Tobias Myers, and Huascar Brazaban. I would say out of everybody competing for the last spot, Craig Kimbrell should have been the lock to get that spot had he performed well. But his main competition comes in the form of lefty Brian Hudson, who's a minor leaguer, no major league experience, and he has a spring ERA of 11.57, but he has 4 strikeouts in over 2 1/3 innings in Grapefruit League action. Mets officials are very impressed with his work on the backfields, so to speak, and they're very happy with where his velocity is. Other bullpen candidates for that final spot include Austin Warren, Joey Gerber, and the most interesting name, Richard Lovelady. The Mets started camp with Richard Lovelady. They let Richard Lovelady go. They DFA'd him. The Nationals took him off waivers. If you look back at our spring training vlogs a couple of weeks ago, the Mets were playing Washington. Richard Lovelady was on the mound. He got tattooed, and yet he got DFA'd by the Nationals, and now the Mets, they picked him back up. The Mets have acquired Richard Lovelady 8 times in the last 9 months. It's just comical at this point. I do not want Richard Lovelady in this rotation, but again, it's between Brian Hudson, Craig Kimbrell, Joey Gerber, who the Mets traded for with Tampa Bay. Not a lot of major league experience. He's had several cups of coffee. Austin Warren, and again, Richard Lovelady. If I'm Carlos Mendoza, I'm still picking Craig Kimbrell. So for the simple fact that this guy has seen and done it all as a reliever. 7-time reliever of the year. 4-time saves leader. Rookie of the year. World Series champion. And even though he's inconsistent, when he's been good so far this spring, he's been good. And when he's been terrible, well, so to speak. But, I mean, Carlos Mendoza has consistently had praise for Kimbrell throughout camp. Even with the struggles with velocity and control, I still would like Craig Kimbrell on this roster, if not for his veteran presence in the clubhouse alone. As I mentioned before, Craig Kimbrell, a World Series champion. When you're trying to have a team that competes, you need guys who have won it all so that they can be examples in the clubhouse. Francisco Lindor has played in a World Series, hasn't won one. Juan Soto has played in 2 World Series. He won 1 and lost 1. So Juan Soto knows what it takes to get all the way to October and win the whole thing. Then you have Craig Kimbrell if he makes the team, another guy with World Series championship experience. And then the rest of the roster hasn't won the whole. Nobody on the rest of the team has won the whole shebang. It would be a mistake, in my opinion, to pick a Joey Gerber or to pick a Austin Warren. God forbid they pick Richard Lovelady for that final bullpen spot. Then you have the unproven kid, Brian Hudson, who, while despite liking his work ethic and having great velocity, the man's ERA in Grapefruit League action is nearing 12. That's not a guy I would want to start my season with. We look at Kimbrell. And Kimbrell so far this spring, with only a handful of games to go. So far in this spring, he's appeared in 5 games. No wins, no losses. 3.60 ERA, 5 innings, 2 strikeouts. Not phenomenal numbers, But at this rate, I'll take veteran Kimbrel for what he could bring to the team from somebody who's won it all in his veteran presence over a guy like Richard Lovelady, who's a human pinata, over Joey Gerber, who doesn't have that much major league experience. And David Stearns keeps telling people that this team is constructed to get to the playoffs. And Joey Gerber is a guy who had 2 cups of coffee 5 years apart. Austin Warren is all right, but again, if it's up to me, I'm picking Craig Kimbrel. G Money Stacks in the comments. Would you rather have Carson Benj in AAA Syracuse to work on his development mechanics or have him earn the job in right field on the spot? I did answer this earlier. I think that was before you jumped in, but I'll repeat it again. I would prefer to have Tauchman start the season in right. Let Carson Benj get a little bit more seasoning. If Tauchman makes the team, he's probably going to be on a vet minimum. So if he does struggle and you do have to move on and DFA him or cut him outright and pay him, it's not a large sum of money you're going to have to get rid of. And then because Carson Benj did struggle in the 24 games he played in AAA last season. I would let him get more seasoning because, again, AAA is right before the majors. He struggled in AAA last season. He hit 174. I don't think that's going to translate too well. And again, yeah, he's hitting 400 in spring training, but hitting 400 in spring training is different than doing it in the majors. We've seen plenty of guys who had monster spring trainings, and when the regular season rolled around, nowhere near the same player. So, if it was up to me, I would say let Tauchman start the season. If he does not do well, you can get rid of him. It won't cost you much. And then you can bring Benj up. Let him develop just a little bit more because he's right on the cusp. G Money Stacks, Craig Kimbrel is 37. Yes, he is. G Money Stacks tomorrow, Mets, Tampa Bay Rays, 7 p.m. SNY. Friday, Mets, Cardinals, 1 p.m. Saturday, Houston Astros, Mets, 1 p.m. on Pix 11. That is the upcoming Grapefruit League schedule. And after that, that's it. Time for flushing. And then G Money Stack said, like you said, when you had Barry Grant Jr. and Tom Greer from Queens Gets the Money Mets podcast. Shout out to Tom Greer and Barry Grant Jr. Those are my guys. Check out their podcast on the All Even Podcast YouTube channel. They also talk Mets. They're actually on right now as we speak. Even if you have a bigger payroll, that doesn't guarantee a World Series championship. Is not easy. And yes, I've said that so many times. Some people, they're scared of the Dodgers, which rightfully so because they're a dynasty now. But you look at teams with big payrolls, and I'm not going to go into the whole shebang, but teams with big payrolls, big market teams. The Mets, how often have they won? 2024 was the one-off year. 2022, 101 games got bounced in the wild card round. Just because you have a big payroll doesn't guarantee you success. We've seen it with the Yankees. The Angels are a big market team. They just don't spend. At one point, Mike Trout was the highest paid player. They had Shohei and Albert Pujols, couldn't win. And Anthony Rendon, who they spent money on, who pretty much should go to jail for highway robbery. Different story for a different time and a different podcast. But yeah, you get big markets. The Phillies they were one game short of going to the World Series. The Diamondbacks beat them, and the Phillies lost to the Diamondbacks, a big market team with a big payroll, losing to a small market team. Texas Rangers won a World Series in 23. They're not exactly a big market team despite playing in a large state. So sometimes big payrolls mean nothing. Moving on here. I know we're going over an hour here on the air, but still a lot to unpack. Francisco Lindor has made his spring debut. He had the broken hemate bone, had surgery. I was initially skeptical that Lindor was going to be ready for opening day. The team said he would be ready for opening day. And, well, what do you know? Francisco Lindor played shortstop for a couple of innings earlier this week, and he looked like his old self. So, nothing bad there. The Mets got some really encouraging news. Lindor improving through his recovery process after undergoing that hamate bone procedure. He had the surgery for the broken hamate bone. He's faced live pitching. He played in a game. He's been taking live BP daily, so that's always a good sign. He faced AJ Minter on the backfields in a bullpen session the other day. So, and again, Lindor, he made his spring debut. He went 1 for 3 in that Grapefruit League game. So that's an encouraging sign. The fact that a guy who broke his hand early in camp is now playing in actual games. So, again, Lindor even got a hit. He hit leadoff and played shortstop against the Toronto Blue Jays. He went 1 for 3. He did strike out one time, but he also scored a run. He was expected to be sidelined for 6 weeks when he had the surgery on February 11th. But the Mets again said Lindor is going to be ready opening day, which is now 8 days away from today, folks. So mark the calendars. Next week, Thursday, March 26th, Mets play the Pirates at Citi Field. For anybody who's going to be at Citi Field, by the way, before I continue, I will be at Citi Field on opening day. Follow me on Instagram. Shoot me a DM. You want to meet up? You want to talk shop? I'll be more than happy to meet up with anybody that's going to be at Citi. But going into Sunday, this past Sunday, the Mets had 8 games remaining on the Grapefruit League schedule before the tilt with the Pirates on March 26th. Lindor had his surgery the day before pitchers and catchers reported to Port St. Lucie, Florida. He was complaining of soreness in his left hand, but played through the discomfort last season. The issue lingered throughout the offseason, and that's when the Mets encouraged him to see a specialist who revealed that he had a broken bone in his left hamate bone in his left hand. For those of you who don't know, your hamate is like right here. So yeah, and it's on his fielding hand too, which is pretty rough. Lindor was quoted as saying, "I felt like I was pretty much like myself, and I finished the game healthy. Overall, it was a good day for me. Again, going 1 for 3, always a good sign getting a hit." If the Mets, and I said this earlier when talking about Tauchman and Benj, if the Mets can have Francisco Lindor healthy for opening day, then Vidal Brujan's chances of making the team are automatically non-existent. Because if I had to choose between Ronnie Mauricio and Vidal Brujan, I'm picking Mauricio 10 times out of 10. No reason to carry Brujan and Mauricio when Lindor is going to be your everyday shortstop. Lindor may miss at 2 games at most this season, barring some act of God or natural disaster. We're talking about the same guy who broke his toe in May last season and went through the entire season playing on a broken toe and didn't miss a beat while running around on the broken toe. Because of the hamate bone injury and an elbow surgery in the off season, Lindor was not eligible to play in the World Baseball Classic due to insurance concerns. But it looks like he's going to be on track for opening day, and that is the absolute best news possible that you could get as a Met fan. Of course, Lindor, a key cog in the machine that is the New York Metropolitans. Hamate bones have been a major bone of contention, pardon the pun, during this spring training season. Corbin Carroll of the Arizona Diamondbacks broke his hamate bone early in their camp. He made his Cactus League debut last Wednesday. And Jackson Holliday also broke his hamate bone on February 12th, had surgery the next day. But the Orioles have come out and said Jackson Holliday is not going to start the season with the team. He's going to be starting the season on the IL. Corbin Carroll is back already. Lindor is back. The fact that he's playing in Grapefruit League games right now, Lindor doesn't need much of a ramp up. It's Francisco Lindor. He's a notorious slow starter anyway every season. If you notice, Lindor always starts slow and heats up as the season goes along. And then in the dog days of summer, he's usually himself, who we know him to be. So I personally think when next Thursday rolls around, Lindor will be in the lineup, and we can say bye-bye to Vidal Brujan. Get to the comments here. G Money Stacks very active in the comments. I did a topic like this on my sports show, Excellent, Fun, Vibrant Talks podcast, and I feel like the deferrals play a role in the problem. He's talking about the Dodgers. He says he posted the Mets regular season schedule in the community tab of his show. Go check that out. Again, that is the Excellent, Fun, Vibrant Talks podcast. G Money Stacks says he didn't think that Lindor was going to heal that fast, and neither did I. The hamate bone. And Francisco Alvarez also had a hamate bone issue a couple of seasons ago. And yes, Ronnie Mauricio has one option left. But between Mauricio and Dubon, I rather Mauricio. Dubon, a career batting average below 199. That's not a guy I want on my ball club whatsoever. It's more of a liability than helpful. But Lindor missing time would hurt the Mets. So Lindor, for what it's worth, again, pretty tough guy. Francisco Lindor played most of last season with a broken toe, suffered that broken toe injury in May when the Mets were in Chavez Ravine against the Dodgers. Didn't need surgery, played the whole season on a broken toe. So he's tough. I'm very surprised that for a guy who has a broken bone in his fielding hand, he's out there fielding, playing in competitive games. I'm very surprised he healed in less than 6 weeks. And Pearl says, hello, my friend. Hope all is well. So, again, for those of you watching this, if you're not subscribed, I recommend heavily for you to subscribe. Again, we're going to have content all week. I got something special for opening day cooked up for this program. Our next episode where we go live will be next week, Wednesday, 24 hours prior to opening day. And again, I will be at Citi Field next week, Thursday. So if you have me on Instagram at _Metropolitan_report, and you're going to be at Citi Field, shoot me a DM. Let's plan to meet up. Let's have some beers. Let's eat some hot dogs, and let's get in the energy of baseball season. Baseball is back, baby. Let's get into the groove of things, and let's kick it. I'm getting to Citi Field at 10 o'clock in the morning. First pitch is 1 a.m. 1 a.m. First pitch is 1:15 p.m. I'm gonna be in Citi Field by 10 a.m. It's gonna be a blast. I look forward to seeing everybody there. If anybody wants to meet up, I already got plans to see quite a few people that I haven't seen since September, since the last Met home game. So I'm very excited to get back to the stadium, and I am all good and ready. But again, I am excited. Perel says, my son wants to try out for baseball. Well, hopefully you got a slugger on your hands. I'm hyped for you. He says, I'm excited. Well, listen, you ever need any advice, you know where to find me. I played baseball most of my teenage and adult life. One last thing before we get out of here. I'm going to end on a very, very positive note. The MLB Spring Breakout Showcase is getting ready to take place. Of course, Spring Breakout, it starts tomorrow, which by the time this episode drops, because today's Wednesday, it starts Thursday. It's going to be a showcase of all 30 teams, every team in the majors. They're going to have their top prospects play in the tournament. The Mets are going to have a really great showing in Spring Breakout. It's a testament to the depth of just how good the Mets farm system is. Participating in Spring Breakout, we're going to see A.J. Ewing, who is the Mets' fourth best prospect. Again, A.J. Ewing was showcased on our spring training vlog. Go check that out on the YouTube. Elian Pena also going to play in Spring Breakout. Elian Pena is the Mets' number 9 ranked prospect. So I'm very excited to see these young kids play. Nolan Mclean played in spring breakout last season. He got to the majors. So I'm very excited. This edition of spring breakout will be from tomorrow to the 22nd. It'll be throughout the Grapefruit and Cactus League stadiums. You can watch it on MLB TV, and SNY is going to put it too. Broadcast it to Ryan Clifford, who is the Mets' number 5 prospect, the big red dog, Ryan Clifford, and Jacob Reimer, all guys who were showcased on our spring training vlogs, are going to participate. Back to Elian Pena, though. He was the 3rd player in the past 20 years to have multiple 3-homer games in a season prior to his 20th birthday, and he did it at the age of 17. That kid is phenomenal. And Mitch Voigt, who was the 2025 first-round pick of the Mets, he'll be in spring breakout as well. He's the Mets' number 8 ranked prospect, and shortstop Antonio Jimenez, number 17 ranked prospect, will all be playing in the spring breakout. So, of course, the Mets' number 1 prospect, Nolan Mclean, will not be in that tournament. Jonah Tong also will not be in the tournament, both because they already have big league service time. And in McLean's case, he just pitched in the World Baseball Classic, so he's disqualified from participating. Jack Weniger, the Mets' number 7 pitching prospect, he is going to be in the spring breakout as well. Jack Weniger, we have footage of him in Grapefruit League action from our spring training vlog, which I highly recommend you check out. He was in big league camp this season, and he had a 2.25 ERA last season for AA Binghamton. Not bad at all. So again, spring breakout. This is the final roster for the Mets spring breakout team. For the pitching staff, Juan Arnaud, Haas Brewer, Nicholas Carreno, Saul Garcia, Christopher Gomez, Douglas Oriana, Jonathan Santucci, Ben Simon, and Jack Weniger. Then you have Diverson Gutierrez, Chris Suero, who doubles as both a catcher and an outfielder. He's their number 16 prospect. He actually hit a big home run that was highlighted in our spring training vlog as well. Go check that out. And Julio Zayas. Infielders, Junior Amparo, Ryan Clifford, Randy Guzman, Jonathan Henriquez, Antonio Jimenez, Elian Pena, Jacob Reimer, who was also showcased in the vlog, DeAndre Smith, Marco Vargas, and Mitch Voigt. And finally, in the outfield, A.J. Ewing, Nick Morabito, fresh off of his stint on Team Italy in the WBC, and Eli Serrano III. So a lot of depth for that Mets spring breakout team. A lot of good guys, bright prospects. The future is bright for the Mets organization with all these guys. And if you want to get a chance to see them play, a good portion of them had some highlights in our spring training vlog, which is up on the YouTube channel. And then again, you can watch this tournament starting tomorrow on SNY. So lots of top prospects in the Mets organization, at least the top 25, are all in the spring breakout tournament. Real quick before we go, my friend Clint Alexander says, how's that Diamond Dynasty team? I've been playing a lot of MLB The Show, 26 so far. Diamond Dynasty is going well. You can check the Twitch for that those streams. So that is all, folks. We're going to wrap it up here. Had a long show today. A lot to unpack, but stay tuned throughout the week. Got a lot of content for y'all. And again, we'll be back live next week, Wednesday, 24 hours before opening day. And again, if you want to say hello in person, I'll be at Citi Field next week, Thursday, for the Mets season opener against the Pittsburgh Pirates. Shoot me a DM on Instagram, _Metropolitan_report. Wherever you're watching, it's down below. Send me a DM and we can arrange to hang out. Let's share a beer. Let's talk some baseball. Overall, good positive vibes. And hopefully the Mets can start off 1-0 in the season. Well, folks, we're going to have content coming out throughout the week leading up to our next live show next week, Wednesday. Sound off in the comments if you're watching this on video on demand, on replay. And let's go Mets. And I'll see everybody soon.